Part 142. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1425. Words, will you not do this? When questioned, lethality doubled. Suddenly Zuzu didn't want to talk to her anymore. He had been exhausted for the past few days. Now that she is awake, he is more exhausted. After the Yanj bottle was hung, Zhu 11 helped her remove the needle. Yanj looked at him this way, you wouldn't have come from a medical school before. Zhu Yan, I train them these days. Words, oh. She asked curiously, how do you say Tong Sinan went abroad? Zhu Yan heard the words, and immediately looked at her face vigilantly, why, remember him? No, I'm just curious. Yan Ji shrugged. I don't really miss him that much. What she said was true. Very strange, he just believed that she really didn't like Sinan so much. Only that idiot would think innocently that she likes it. Zhu Yuan said, he wants money but no money, and forces have no power. Even the door of this villa can't get in. I let him get away, and he only got away. Yanj, it's good to be rich and powerful. Zhu Yan, in the future, my money and momentum will be yours. Yanj, will you steal me and kill me? Zhu Yan grinds her teeth, and stretches out her hand and pulls her ear, I'm not interested in killing, I'm only interested in rape. Words, oh. She looked at him with a serious expression, I will cooperate with you then. Zhu-song, instantaneous. After walking around the yard, Zhu Yan took Yanj to the restaurant and fed her a small bowl of vegetable porridge. The two also watched a movie in the video room. Yan Song's addiction broke out again. Zhu Yan took her back to the room and fed her medicine. Tied her hands and feet to the bed. When he did these things, he was very calm and at ease. Even later, a mouth ball was put into Yanj's mouth. He took the towel and helped her wipe the sweat from her face. Fifi, he said softly, I have a lot of money. Even if you touch that thing, I can also afford you. But that thing is not good for your body, it will slowly erode your body and make you lose ego, obedient, I will help you quit it. Zhu Yan said and done. He used all the methods available. Psychological counseling and drug control. Also, imprisonment is extremely powerful. As a result, the wedding schedule of the two was delayed again. For 6 months, Yanj's body has been renewed. The time for her to marry Zuzu was finally on the agenda. Yanj's wedding dress was designed by herself. In this half year, except for the initial withdrawal period, she was restricted in personal freedom. After the withdrawal period, Zhu 11 invited many teachers to teach her something new every day in an attempt to divert her attention to poison in this way. This method works very well. Yanj is very busy every day. I really have no time to think about anything else. On February 14th of the year, Zhu Yan pulled the words and went to the Civil Affairs Bureau early, and took the red small book first. He also took a picture of Zhang, not only sent a circle of friends himself, but also a circle of friends for Yanj. Yan Ji looked at the red book in his hands and asked him, Mr. Zhu, why do you want to marry me? Zhu Yan drove in person. Although he was staring at the road ahead, his attention was always here. Yanj has been playing with the marriage certificate, and her behavior made him very happy. He raised his lips and said, I don't know. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1426. Yan Ji tilted his head and glanced at him, what you said sounds honest. Zhu Yan laughed lowly, Fifi, look at it, we will never let you down in our lives. Yan Ji leaned her head and climbed the window to look at the scenery outside. She felt that she would be disappointed at that time, afraid that it would be him. On the wedding day, neither Zhao Gonglei nor Zhao Ting appeared. Only relatives of Yanj appeared, only Zhao's mother. Yan Ji did not ask about Zhao Gonglei and Zhao Ting, nor did Zuye tell her. Mother Zhao's spirit is much better than before. This woman, give her a quiet house, maybe she will imprison herself for a lifetime. Before the wedding, Mother Zhao and Yanj talked about the Zhao family's affairs. Your dad went to jail because of the company's economic dispute. It seems that he also said that he was selling drugs, and that his son was also imprisoned because of this. Go in. The woman came to me, begging me to come here to intercede, and ask you to ask Mr. Zhu for help. Yanj, oh, do you want me to ask Mr. Zhu? Mother Zhao didn't say anything. She helped her daughter brush her hair in her ears, and stared at her youthful face. It took me a long time to say, Mother certainly doesn't want you to ask Mr. Zhu. You and Mr. Zhu can get married because they like each other, but not because of their interests. Your father is responsible for it. You are already an adult. The importance of justice is not to affect your marriage and happiness because of unnecessary things. Well, Mr. Zhu and I are together because I like them. I listened to my mother. Mother Zhao looked at the words, and stopped talking, and eventually said nothing. At the wedding, when Zhao's mother handed Yanj's hand to Zuye's hands, she suddenly burst into tears and murmured, "You have to be good, you must always be good." Yan Ji backhanded and hugged her, "I'll be good, good, good." The wedding went well. Not only did the Zhao family's man not appear, even Si Nan did not appear. The wedding night was a sweet night. Mr. Zhu is more beast than usual, and the two tossed all night. At the end, he couldn't sleep excitedly, holding Yanj's hand and asking Yanj what he thought of marrying him. "What do you think of Yanj?" She didn't think anything. It has been eaten by devouring beasts. In her heart, the relationship between her and the devouring beast is like a human and a pig. It is sad that the swallowing beast is a human and she is a pig. She was the roast suckling pig that tasted delicious in the eyes of devouring the beast. The plane has experienced a lot, especially from the previous plane. After her first counterattack of swallowing Tianqi, she began to re-examine the existence of the swallowing beast. In fact, in the plane, the devouring beast that lost memory is no different from normal people. Even in Yan Ji's opinion, with the blessing of the chicken cub, she can recognize the swallowing beast first, and has the previous memory, which is equivalent to the relationship between her and the swallowing beast. She became human, and he became the roasted suckling pig. What do you think of the roasted suckling pig that is about to be imported? Yanj thought seriously and then answered Zuyan, "I'm looking forward to it, and I've always been looking forward to it." Zuyan was very satisfied with this answer, his eyes filled with joy. But he was not satisfied with such an answer, and continued to ask, "Don't you think I'm old?" You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1427. Yan Song raised his eyes and looked at his eyebrows. As long as he is a devouring beast, let alone say that he is 35 this year, or 53, and she does not dislike it. She looked at the delicious flavor that was about to come to her mouth, and the enthusiasm and love in her eyes were even crazy. "I like you, you are not old in my eyes." She sighed and kissed him on the forehead. "What about you, do you like me?" Zuyan's staring body was almost softened into a pool of water. Hearing Yan Ji's words again, he was a little bit fluttering and his old face was red. Asked by Yan Ji, he whispered, "Like." I also feel that these two words are light, and compared with the words of the words, there is no weight, so I added, "Not only I like, but I love you very much, I love you very much." Yanj laughed, "Do you love me more than you love yourself?" She asked so casually. Zuyan tilted his head for a moment, and said seriously, "It is better than it." Yan Ji glanced at him obliquely, and said with a smile, "Slick tongue." Zhu 11 is no longer a teenager in the second middle period. He felt that he would be responsible for such words. She doesn't believe it now, but it doesn't matter, as time goes by, she will always know his mind. The next morning, Zhu 11 began to take the honeymoon with his words. The two plan to travel more than half of China. Yan Ji is not interested in foreign countries, Zhu can be anywhere. He is not interested in scenery. He is only interested in words. As long as there is her place, it doesn't matter where you go. So along the way, where you plan to go and when to travel, it's all a matter of words. Zhu Yan enjoyed this life very much. He didn't even want to go back to the villa and the company that needed him every day. Just want to be carried by her, so go all the way. On the way to Zhezegu, an earthquake happened unexpectedly. Zhu Song and Yanj were free to go. At that time, the two were still in the mountains. When the earthquake came, Zhu Yan held Yansong in their arms for the first time. However, the position of my heart was extremely dull in the next moment. He looked down. I saw that Yanj had a thin sharp needle like a sharp needle in his hand. The difference between the needle and the needle was that the needle part of this sharp tool was very long and penetrated directly into his heart. Ignoring his surprise, she lowered her head and drew blood from his heart. Zhu Yan's face was incredible. He felt he saw more of an illusion. Because of the earthquake, there were rumbling sounds and landslides. But these loud noises were not as shocking as the needle she had pierced into his chest. He raised his eyes and fixed his eyes on her face. He kept telling himself that it was hallucination, but the pain reminded him that it wasn't. He heard himself and murmured to her, "Why? Is it because of Sinan? Is it because he still doesn't like him? I just like Sinan guy, so why?" After Yanj poked into the heart of Zhu from the sharp instrument, he never went to see Zhu again. She took a step back and pulled out the sharps, and Zhu 11's blood had drawn a small half of her blood. Without hesitation, she poked the needle into her own heart. Take out the blood from the heart, and then dangle the blood of the two people in the tube together. That's why it's done quickly. Standing in the same place, holding the chest, if you were unbelievable when you were poked by Yanj in the beginning, now, seeing Yanj pokes her own heart, it is the expression of "Are you crazy?" After my death, the villain Blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1428. But the expressions on Zhu Yan's face changed immediately. In front of the woman, her hands were stroking in the air with strange movements, and the blood she drew followed her fingers, and a faint golden light seemed to flash at her fingertips. Isn't it special? Is it magical? At this moment Zhu felt that it was not the words that went crazy, but that he was crazy. Otherwise, how can you see this incredible picture? Fortunately, he is not a hairy kid. Even at this time, he is not scared or even thought. He covered his heart, resisting the dizziness and tingling sensation that he always wanted to fall to the ground, and asked the song again, "Why?" The voice was infuriated with grievances and sadness. When Yanj took heart, he did not poke too deeply. Such a blood-sharpening instrument is a needle tube with a long needle. The needle is very thin. Although the blood is taken from the heart, there is no need to cut open the chest and it will not kill people. When she heard that, she looked at Zhu's half-dead face, smirked, and said, "I always asked why it was me, then I look the same as you now. It's all the same unwillingness, the same grievances and surprises, and forbearance." She looked at the mule and said softly, "Next time, tell me why." "Zhu Yan, why?" His dark eyes stared at Yanj, persevering, and still asking why. Yan Ji tilted his head and looked at him. "I hate you. I hate you." The four words hurt him more than the needle that poked him. He opened his mouth, perhaps because of thirst, and his throat felt uncomfortable as it cracked. As a result, his voice was astringent. "Is it because of Sinan? Love between men and women is so trivial that it is not so far. Yanj laughed ironically, no. She looked at him as if looking at her former self. She said, it's not because of others, it's because of yourself, and you will know it later. She didn't wait for him to speak, adding, actually, it should be me. She didn't understand anything. He just felt that her voice was particularly indifferent, unlike her soft voice on weekdays. Is this his Fifi? Surely not, his Fifi loves him so much. He couldn't help but murmured, you said you like me, is it true? Yanj raised his chin and replied, in an unequal relationship, all likes are for survival. You are not Fifi. Fifi, she likes me. Yanj interrupted him, I'm not Fifi. That woman, she is not as lucky as me. She was rejected by her loved ones, and she died long ago. Zuyan stared at Yanj with a confused look, and didn't seem to understand the meaning of Yanj. Yanj said, you can think of me as a monster. As Yanj said, Zuya felt that Yanj had just acted like a monster. He chuckled, and asked jokingly, self-deprecatingly, then, do you like me or Fifi? Although he was asking for songs, he was more like asking himself. About this moment, he couldn't figure it out. You don't like anyone. Yan Ji's voice calmed down his confusion, you only like yourself. You didn't like Zhao Fifei now. Now you don't like me either. You think you like me because I am, you see, a useful existence. Zuyan looked at Yanj with a look of dissatisfaction. The next moment, he suddenly flung forward and hugged Yanj. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1429. Yanj thought that this guy turned into a devouring beast and wanted to eat himself. The needle tube in his hand was scratched towards Zuyan's neck. Zuyan rolled with 2 words holding the song. At the same time, the place where they had just stood was crushed by the large stones falling from the mountain. Zuyan stared at the song with blood all over his mouth, and blood pouring around his neck. He wanted to open his mouth, and with one mouth, blood spurted out. Yanj's needle drew a long mouth around his neck. Her hands were strained and his arteries were cut. The blood spurted far. Yanj was held tightly by him, and a lot of his blood was splashed on her face. But she didn't hide. Like the Barbie doll soft in his arms, let him hug him tightly. Zuyan bowed his head slightly, and his lips touched the tip of Yan Ji's ears. His lips moved, and his intermittent voice was very vague, I still like you. Still like it? Holding her in this way, I was satisfied and even felt that I would die without regret. Even at this moment, I really wanted to chop her neck so that she could die with him. Can't live and die together. But he had no more energy. He knew he couldn't break her neck. Can't die together, just think, just want her to remember him all his life. Even if there are countless grievances, even if there are countless puzzles and sadness. He didn't show it at this time. His eyes were mad at her, his heart was sad, and the tears in his eyes were brewing instantly. His lips moved and murmured, I like you, I don't regret it. After Zhu Jian's body twitched a few times, he stopped moving. He stared at Yan Ji with a pair of eyes, the light under his eyes went out slowly, but his eyes did not close. He looked at her with tears in his eyes. Yan Ji slowly reached out his hand, his fingertips touching the corner of his eyes, and the tears were wiped off by her fingertips. I won't believe your words. She put his hands on his eyes and helped him close them. There is no trust in unequal relationships. She lay beside Zuzu, motionless. I had thought that I would be buried in the forest with the magpies like this. However, to her surprise, she was rescued. It was not others but Sinan who saved her. Yanj and Zuyu, wherever they went, Zuyu would take selfies with Yanj to show couples of friends to show their friends. Of course, Zuzu did this, but in fact, the person who wanted to show it was Sinan. Sinan knew that they had gone to Josegu. Because of this, As soon as the news of the Josegu earthquake came out, Sinan almost fixed the ticket to return to the country almost immediately. After returning to China, he fixed a ticket to Josegu directly at the airport. Aftershocks in Josegu and the airport are all stranded tourists. Everyone wanted to escape from this place, but Sinan went the other way and wanted to enter the hinterland. He has seen the last picture updated by the two of them in the circle of friends, and also checked the geomorphology of Josegu. They are at the epicenter of the earthquake. Whether the cheap dad will die, Sinan doesn't care. His direct father-son relationship with Zhu 11 is far less beautiful than others think. Especially after his own woman became a stepmother, Sinan only hated this so-called relative. He returned to China not far away and entered Josegu without stopping. Just to find her. To see people in life, to see dead bodies in death. The hinterland of the earthquake source has been isolated, and no one is allowed to enter except rescue workers. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 1430. Sinan walked all the way and saw countless people crying. One parent was crying and asked rescuers to find their child who was washed away by the mudslide. Other men were crying to find his girlfriend, but were stopped by rescue workers. Sinan was calm and he was looking for her all the way. If no one was found, he knew that she should not have been able to run out. To see people in life, to see dead bodies in death. When she failed to run out, he went in to look for her. Rescue workers are not allowed in, but people are so busy coming and going, who can really control who? Sinan caught the air and ran in. The central area of the source is wide. And from time to time, there are aftershocks. Be careful of mountain collapses, and be careful of debris flows. I don't know when it will start to rain. Sinan searched all night in the mountains. When dawn was about to come, finally found the word song. Yan's song is dying. She had blood and mud on her body, and most of her body was about to be buried in the mud. Her head and face were almost invisible. Only the shape of the human body. But I don't know why. At the moment when he saw it, Sinan felt like he had a feeling. He thought that it was her he was looking for. He took the man out of the mud. He didn't care about the mud on his face, and leaned his head against her chest with a slight smile on his face. Then he pressed her chest to help her with artificial respiration. When Yanj woke up, his body flickered. Spitting. She turned her head down and saw the two slimy legs. And muddy ground. Looking further up was Sinan's muddy face. Yanji coincided with his gaze, and they both met for a moment. The next moment, Sinan hurriedly put her down, took out the water from the backpack, and wiped her hands with a clean towel from the backpack. Then she unscrewed the water and handed her, "Are you still uncomfortable?" "It's not that bad." Although Yanj's chest injury was a small pin-eye, the pin-eye could reach the heart. Inflammation of a wound infection can be fatal. After Yanji drank a few sips of water, her dizziness finally eased, and she asked him, "Is there a medicine?" Sinan nodded and asked the song, "Where did you get hurt?" He didn't find any wounds on Yanj. But when I heard the words, I was busy turning out the medicine in the bag. Yanj searched and found what he needed. Then he untied the muddy clothes, wiped his chest with a towel, and washed it with water. Then he applied the medicine and the anti-inflammatory needle together. Beat. It wasn't until Yanj wiped her chest clean that Sinan realized that there was a little bit of rotten wound on her chest. It's like a mole. If you don't look closely, you can't see it at all. She has been having a low fever these days. Sinan only thought that she was suffering from cold, and now she saw her chest wound, and then she suddenly reacted. Her wound was infected. I'm almost there. Sinan didn't dare to delay any more time. He stuffed Yanj a bottle of milk, then squatted down, and helped her bandage the wound first. Yanj was drinking milk and did not respond to Sinan. She is in a bad shape. She was inflamed and infected directly to her heart, and she had no hope of living. Not long after being held in his arms by Sinan, Yan Ji passed out again. When she woke up again, she was in the hospital. Sinan was lying on the bed beside her, with a half-inch beard, messy hair, and a thin man. Because the eyes are closed, the orbital subsidence becomes even higher. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 1431. But even so, Yan Ji looked at it, and still felt that even this guy was very thin. Regardless of the lines on the face, or the look on the face, it gives people a harsh and cold beauty. This is, seen your face? Yanj saw the sweet smell of his sleep. Without bothering to bother, he just stared at the ceiling dumbly. It was Sinan who suddenly reached out his hand in his sleep and touched Yanj's face. Yanj's face was sideways, and he touched Yanj's hair. Feeling wrong, he was sober with agitation and sat up staring at the words. Yanji and his eyes widened. What nerve does this guy have? Why look at her with this expression? Yan Song raised his hand and rubbed his messy, bird's nest-like hair. Fortunately, although it is messy, it is not greasy, so I touched it after touching the song, and by the way dragged a few hairs down, hitting the west, asking him, what's wrong? Sinan saw that her voice was a little dumb, so she got up and poured a glass of water for her, and poured a glass for herself. Yanj was lying down, and the drinking glass had no straw. When he realized that Yanj could not drink, Sinan went to help Yanj sit up. As soon as the words moved, my chest hurt. At this time, she suddenly missed the devouring beast that had been killed by her. I have to say that I didn't feel anything at the time, but at this time, I still remember the straw that the devouring beast put in her water glass. After watching Yanj drinking, Sinan said, when did you wake up, hungry and hungry, where is it uncomfortable? Yanji breathed a sigh of relief and looked down at the wound on his chest. I'm hurt, what's wrong? Sinan's eyes also fell on Yanji's chest, and his eyes were slightly darkened, but immediately, this worry was covered by him, and he raised his eyes and smiled at Yanji. The doctor said that you can be better if you raise more. Words, oh. Sinan stared at her expression, seeing that she hadn't asked anything about Zuyu from beginning to end. Several times he would have said it, but then he swallowed it again. Yanj looked at the ward. Is this in the hospital? Sinan nodded. Song of Song, since I'm fine, you don't have to keep guarding me all the time. There are escorts and nurses. I can call them if I have something. If you are busy, go for it. Sinan, I'm not busy. Words, oh. She sat uncomfortable, so she lay back again. Sinan sat by her bed and looked at her. His eyes were burning, and he couldn't even ignore the words, and simply said to him, how long do I need to stay in the hospital? Sinan asked, are you unwilling to stay in the hospital? The main reason was that she didn't want her to keep staring at him when she was awake. Yanji nodded. Sinan immediately got up, I'll ask the doctor. Sinan didn't take long to go, but Yanj couldn't be quieter. A few doctors came to take her for a full-body examination and called Sinan away. Yanj fell asleep before Sinan returned to the ward. After waking up, Sina really lay beside him again. She raised her hand and rubbed the guy's hair. His hair had been cut into inches. It didn't feel soft last time when kneading, and the hair was not easy to pull down. However, his hair was very hard, and his palms were brushed, which was not bad. Before the song was taken back, Sinan woke up. Looking sideways, facing each other. He asked, are you thirsty? Yan Song shook his head. Hungry? Do you want to eat something? After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1432. Yan Song shook his head again. Nan then stopped talking, just staring at her foolishly. Yanj was curious, "What are you staring at me for?" Nan heard the words, her lips raised, and smiled, "I always feel like dreaming." "It's stupid even so," Yan Ji laughed, "why are you in Josegu?" "I'm looking for you," Nan said, "I saw the news, and the old man posted your position in the circle of friends, so he returned to China and went to see you." "Then you went in time." Yan Ji raised his hand again and rubbed his hair. "I have saved your life." "Is it timely?" Nan looked at her. He didn't feel timely. If earlier. A little earlier, a long time ago, she knew about her. Everything is very different from now. He was not timely, he was a long time late. Yan Ji saw that he didn't answer, so he asked again, "What about your dad, did he find it?" When she asked this, her expression was calm, like a very random question. Nan's expression was tense, and she felt that her mood did not fluctuate greatly, so she said, "No, I only found you." She and Zuzu are actually together. But Sinan said that she could only be found. In fact, it seems that Sinan only wanted to find her. Yanj didn't say anything about the mules. She sighed and asked Sinan, "What are you going to do now?" Sinan was a little confused. "All his plans now are to make her healthy. What are you planning?" Yan Ji gave him a glance. "If your dad dies, someone in the company will have to take over the business. Don't say you haven't been to the company during this time." "Sinan, that's his company. It has nothing to do with me. What he needs, he will earn it later." Yan Ji looked at the idiot and looked at him. "Then you don't take over, let me take over. I seem to be quite relaxed without you so much to grab the property." "Sinan, you need to rest now." "Yanj, I'm afraid I'll raise the company and the company will become an empty shell." Sinan had no choice but to say, "Then you take good care of the disease, I will help you to see the company." Yan Ji stared at him suspiciously. "Will you ever lift me up then?" "No, I don't want anything, everything for him is yours." Yanj laughed, "I won't take advantage of you either. By then we'll be half off." This is the end of the story of the great stepmother and son fighting for the family property. Yanj stayed in the hospital for more than a week before moving back to the villa. This villa is a villa that Sinan just bought a short time ago. Even if Sinan didn't say it, his mind was clear. Yanj did not pierce the window paper. Zhu 11 has a will. Surprisingly, he left all his possessions to Yanj. Not even a dime to his own son Sinan. This is really, with a young wife, forget the typical of his son. It was still Sinan who found the will. He gave it to Yanj. "When you are better, go to the company and the real estate in your name." Yanj looked at the whole column of property dumbfounded. Obediently, Zhu 11 is so cruel, he didn't give his son a dime. Even the house where her own son lived in college was left to her. Oh, and those sports cars from Sinan. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 1433. Yan Ji thinks Zuyes Abacus is playing well. He probably was really afraid that if he hanged up, his son would give him a green hat, so he wanted to use these properties as Li Jianan and Yanj. But he counted so many things that Sinan didn't care about his family property. In terms of songs, he was very willing to give half to Sinan. Yan Ji flipped through the will and asked Sinan, "Is his body found?" "Can't confirm his death yet." "Found it?" "It has been found some time ago, the dead can't die anymore. Relying on DNA to identify the deceased." "But Sinan didn't tell Yanj about it?" He didn't want the words Zuzu to appear in her life at all. Fortunately, after Yanj got this answer, he didn't ask any more. When she finally got out of bed and walked slowly, Sinan took her to change her name. But Yanj did not change all the assets to his own name. She asked for all the cash, half for the house and car, and 20% for the company. My body, I'm afraid I don't have the energy to run the company. You take care of it. I will take a share, and I will be able to follow you and eat hot and spicy. Sinan, do you have any opinion? Sinan wanted to refuse, but suddenly thought, that's fine. After all, with the interests involved, the relationship between the two people will be more secure. In the future, as long as she obediently looks beautiful at home, he will take care of everything outside. However, what Ling Nan didn't expect is that after Yanj's health was better, he began to do public welfare. She worked with police to launch a drug-free campaign in schools across the country. During the event, not only were many prisoners preaching by way of example, but also many young people were pictured with mosaics. She even invested a lot of money in the development of an antidote that was not favored. Even herself, she invested in it and started to learn about it. She is busy almost every day. Always busy. Sinan had little time to see her. He hired 2 assistants exclusively for her. He learned from the assistant that she was sometimes busy even after 12 in the evening. Even the time for eating was squeezed out. This was nothing like what he expected. However, he felt that she was the real one, like her now. Sinan knew that if no one interrupted, she might have been so busy. So he found a time to meet her. Proposed to her with a car full of roses and his own heart. After Zhu Yan died, Sinan always thought that he and her were completely natural. The only thing he needed to worry about was her physical life. But Zhu Yan has been dead for more than 3 years, but he and she have made no progress. Sinan is not in a hurry. It was no surprise to say that the song was received by Sinan. She looked at her watch and said to Sinan, let's find a place to eat and talk while we eat. Sinan. Under normal procedures, shouldn't he agree to his proposal first? Or is it moved to tears? Why on her face, the clouds are light, and there is no trace of excess emotion. The restaurant is already booked, but it's reserved. Although Sinan was stunned, he didn't know what the idea was, but the gentleman stood up and opened the door to help him. He drove himself to a restaurant not far from here. On the way, Sinan secretly glanced at several words. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 1434. Yan Ji kept his head down while typing on his mobile phone, with a serious expression. Sinan glanced at the red light. She even researched the formula on her mobile phone. There is a girlfriend of Swiba, so sad. Sinan, who was automatically brought into the mail ticket, was sad and found out that he doesn't seem to be her mail ticket now. It hasn't turned right. The layout of the restaurant took a lot of thought, and Sinan himself participated in it. But Sinan, who was paying attention to Yanj, found that she didn't look at the restaurant at all. Until sitting at the table, she held her cell phone and asked him, "Did you order?" Sinan nodded, "No problem, do you have any more points?" Yanj shook his head, "No, I can eat enough, I don't picky eaters." Sinan. This whole day of romantic fantasy, to this day, no residue is left. Still, with courage, he said, "Fifi, you. Yanj looked up and interrupted him, "Wait a while, and then I will talk about it. I will be busy for a while." She didn't think it was the right time to speak. In case she said it now, Sinan was so angry that she had to lift the table. While eating, the piano sounded. The piano sounded and the boys sang softly. After the boys sing, it is the sound of the violin. Yanj barely ate a meal in such a noisy environment. Sinan didn't take a few sips. There was something in his heart, where could he eat it? Just accompany Yan eating. He felt that according to Yan Ji's cheerful eating method, he should promise him. After all, if you refuse, you will not eat so happily at this time. Yanj was full, and then he asked Sinan, "Are you full?" Sinan nodded. Finally, when it came to business, he was nervous, but picked a rose in a vase on the table and kneeled down. He hasn't said the words of marriage proposal again, the opposite song has already said, "I won't marry you." Sinan. Yanj motioned him to stand up, "Don't do this, you sit down, let's have a good talk." Sinan wanted to ask why, but at this moment, he hadn't responded yet. Yanj helped him to stand up, then sat down and looked at him and said, "Sinan, in fact, I didn't intend to say these things to you. I thought about this and it gradually faded, but now you are like this, I think I still need to tell you clearly." Sinan sat in his seat, and in the eyes of Yan Ji, his back slowly and straightened. He heard his calm voice saying, "Oh, you say. Thank you for saving me before, but even if you save my life, I don't want to force myself to be with you. I have never liked you in the past. When I was studying, those gangsters were deliberately sought by you in order to get close to me. Sinan, I knew from the beginning that you were the son of Mr. Zhu. Mr. Zhu won't marry me. In fact, he only used me as a gadget in the beginning, but I didn't want to be a gadget that was thrown away by him. Sinan, I called the police that day and asked the police to arrest Zhao Ting. Everything on that day was everything I had calculated from the beginning. I never liked you, everything I did to you before was to use it." What she said was like a thunderstorm, and Sinan was dizzy. But he didn't believe her words. What she said is definitely an excuse.